Hello everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Rest in Peace Manual Quality Scoring. My name is Rita Sharudi, and I'm going to be the moderator of this event. Before we begin, we need to cover a few housekeeping items. You can expand your slides area to maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can submit them through the Q&A engagement tool. We will try to answer these during the webcast, but if a fuller answer is needed or we run out of time, it will be answered later via email. Please know that we do capture all questions. A copy of today's slide deck is made available in the Resources panel within the GoToWebcast audience player. For the best viewing experience, we encourage using a high-speed and stable internet connection and closing any programs or browser sessions running in the background that can cause any issues. Webinars are bandwidth intensive, so closing unnecessary browser tabs will help conserve your bandwidth. Unstable Wi-Fi can result in connectivity drops, and some networks cause slides to advance more slowly than others, so logging off your VPN is recommended. If your slides are behind, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. The webcast audio is being streamed through your computer, so there is no dial-in number. You can find additional answers to some common technical issues located in the question mark icon in the top right corner of your screen. An on-demand version of the webcast will be available one day after this event and can be accessed using the same event link that was sent to you earlier. Today, we have two amazing speakers to share some exciting insights on improving call center quality. Nico Nevelis is Verint Senior Director, Global Go-to-Market Strategy, who has hands-on experience in working in a contact center. Nico's passion is around incorporating technology with the right processes and the right behaviors to create breakthroughs in employee engagement and operational effectiveness. Along with Nico, please welcome Paul Tessier, Verint Solution Consultant, who's a seasoned expert in tailoring technology to organization-specific needs and finding the right solutions to address common call center challenges. And without further ado, Nicole, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful welcome. And I'm so excited to be spending some time this afternoon with everybody. We have a wonderful agenda for you today. I want to talk a little bit about quality from a different perspective, understanding why you should know a little bit about the unknown, and how do you bring in automation? Everybody's talking about AI and automation these days, so how you can bring that into your quality program that you have, but then actually showing you, and then Paul's going to show you the magic how that happens, and we'll talk about how it's working for our customers today. So let's think about it. Quality from a different perspective. Quality programs in contact centers, they are required. Everywhere you go, everyone has one, whether it's for a compliance perspective or if it's for CX or a bit of both. But the world in the past few years has really changed significantly. And our perspectives on quality program within a contact center and how we fulfill on our quality programs also needs to change as well. Sometimes people think, well, we just have to have quality, it's a requirement, but quality is so much more these days. And it's like, if you think about this Necker cube that we see here on the screen, right? It's a wireframe cube, it has no depth, no cues, and it can be interpreted in different ways. Maybe the front of it is the lower left side. Maybe the upper right square is its front side. How you look at your quality program matters, just like the way you're looking at that cube. And we can all be looking at it differently. So it might be seen as something that's a necessary evil, tedious, or tiresome exercise, but with the right perspective and the right tools, it can be turned from pain to gain. It can do things like drive business through excellent CX and building customer loyalty. It can drive efficiency by driving all interactions towards positive outcomes without the need to follow up. It can mitigate compliance risks by spotting those compliance issues before they escalate. Your call center really is a treasure trove of customer insights, and understanding what's going on with their interactions can help you understand your business even better, make better decisions, and keep up with changing behaviors. So it's not just, though, how you're looking at it that's important. It's also what's inside the box that matters, that data, and how you effectively bring that data into shape through your insights and perceptions. So how do you know what's in your box? Now, we look at it, let's imagine you have all of your customers, right? In 1 month's time, let's say you have 100,000 calls that you've received. And ideally, evaluating all of these would provide you with the most complete insight as to how well your contact center is doing with quality and compliance. And all that information would tell you how effective your coaching programs are and how well the changes that you've made in the way that you're doing business with your customers, how well are they receiving and how well are they handling them. But the reality is that most organizations can only select a small portion of those overall calls to evaluate. And rather than evaluating 100,000 calls, that means really, in this case, you're only doing between 1,000 and 3,000 by random sampling. So you have no way of knowing if these random samplings even represent the same things you would find going on in the other 97,000 calls that are coming in. And even within that sampling, which may or may not be truly representative of those other calls, only 2 to 3% of those calls end up being found to be non-compliant. So if you were to think, 2 to 3%, like maybe between 20 and 90 interactions, it's not a whole bunch that we see going on. 10% of 1,000 would be 100. So when we look at it from the law of numbers, we start to think about, am I really getting the right level of vision into what's going on? The reality is that this small glimpse of items that are not compliant is really like finding a needle in a haystack to see if you find the ones that are really need course correction or really need changing. We're targeting our decisions on changing strategic direction, broader agent coaching programs, basing our understanding of customer experience and one-on-one employee performance feedback on such a small sample of overall data. And I know many organizations are staffed with quality analysts that are rock stars in their roles. I know that they have many hours that they have in their day that's allotted specifically to do work around quality, but also to do other things as well. So there's a finite set of evaluations that they can complete. They don't have a magic ball to tell them which interactions really warrant their attention. The random sampling tells them what they need to listen to. And if they did have a magic ball that would tell them which interactions warrant their attention, you bet they've played the lottery, they would have won the lottery, and they would be happily enjoying a life of leisure right now. So all of these unmonitored interactions, without evaluating them, that's data and insights that are just inaccessible, and it's creating a massive blind spot that's impacting our perception of the quality and the compliance within our organization. And that downstream impact is the accuracy of all the decisions and the coaching that stems from that information. So what you got to ask yourself here is, what is lurking in those unmonitored interactions? And to use the full potential of that customer data that you've got from your contact center and improving the utilization of your quality evaluators, we've got to find a way to do our quality better. But how can we even go about in overcoming this challenge? So manual quality, it isn't dead, but the reality of our capacity restraints, there's only so much that you can get done in terms of evaluations. People can only do a finite amount of manual evaluations. And even if you did try to hire enough people to do evaluations full time, you'd end up having to hire at least 50 full-time QA analysts to do that. That's about $38 million in salary of payroll costs. So companies are not going to hire for large teams just so that they can have 100% quality coverage. It's just not realistic. So even if you could hire more, still it takes time to conduct those evaluations. So it could be weeks or longer before enough evaluation data is even aggregated to provide strategic insights or until an agent is provided coaching and call. In that time, more compliance breaches, more quality errors happen, you have more customer friction, and the penalty costs are just building up. As regulations are increasing and changing, the demands of customers for a wider variety of products is expanding as well. So as changes in the customer expectation on how they engage with you change, it's only going to become far more complicated to make sure that your contact center is dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. Plus, agents are going to expect you to give them back feedback in real time. I mean, today's especially with people that have come in and all they've ever known is the digital age where, they have their smartphone like this that gives them feedback all day long. How many steps have I done today? They have this expectation from their employer now that you're going to give them that same level of real-time feedback on their performance. And that feedback is also fair. And that the coaching that they get is designed to support their success. If not, they will move to an organization that will provide it. And you lose somebody that you've trained, it's not just the cost of having to train up a new person, but it's also all that, tribal knowledge that goes out the door when somebody moves to another organization. So driving your quality program solely on yesterday's approach of manual quality monitoring only, using just random sampling, is just not going to cut it in today's contact center world. And best-in-class leaders know this. They're plugged into leveraging automation and AI to turn their quality team into superheroes. Everyone talks about automation and AI, but how do we use these technologies in a way that drive real business outcomes? Well, first, let's look at automation and AI. How do we go about doing this? And if you've been in, if you haven't heard about AI going on, I want to know where you're going on vacation because that's, where I want to be, right? Someplace where you can just chill out and not hear about what's going on in the world. Everywhere we hear about AI. And so we need to be strategic, though, in the way that we go about it because, bad AI and automation can really disrupt things. It can really, confuse your users. It can produce inaccurate results. It can become outdated quickly and lose sight of important outcomes. So when we think about some of the highlights to think about here is, if you focus only on negative agent behavior, right? The one major issue with bad AI is the tendency to focus solely on negative results. And so this can create more of a punitive environment rather than a supportive one, which leads to decreased morale and productivity. One of the biggest ones, using it to replace human expertise. AI should be a complement to human expertise and not replace it. And there's a reason why a person is listening to those calls. And sometimes it is that depth of experience. A great example of that is in the healthcare industry when it comes to talking about looking at patient care and pharmaceuticals. But there's a reason why somebody has a 4-year degree and master's degree when it comes to becoming a pharmacist, is because it's a complex world. And so having somebody that's their vocation, they really understand, to be able to listen to something like that, it's important. So AI is a helper, AI is not necessarily a replacer. And so going into your AI strategy and bringing it into your quality program is about where can AI come in and do some lifting for me so I can focus on where it matters. Lack of context is one that happens as well quite a bit. Is when we think about, we could use AI to do a whole bunch of data mining, but you're just lifting up insights without understanding how does that necessarily fit into the picture. And so it is, it's almost like saying, hey, I won the lottery, right? I won the lottery. She said I won the lottery. Great. Well, does that mean that I won the lottery and we're going to dinner tonight? Or I won the lottery and we're retiring and we're going to go live on an island? The context around the data itself is very important. This is, again, why having a quality program in place is key. You have to be able to bring everything together. AI for the sake of AI, and not making sure that AI is not even targeted to specific needs. One of the biggest dangers is we go and we say, how are we going to apply our AI to this? Is it ends up not necessarily driving the outcome that you're looking for it to have, So it's not designed to solve the problem, so it falls short of meeting that expectation, or it's not fitting into your natural workflow. If it doesn't integrate into the workflow, it actually can create a lot of frustration from your end users. So we want to make sure that we're using AI that seamlessly fits into things and is showing up people and how they do their job, and things that are also one size fits all. I'm sure if I sat down with each of you that's on this session right now, everybody would tell me how your organization is different. And there are things about your organizations that make it you uniquely you. And so if I was to look at, I've got Rika still on the line here. She's a rock star employee, but she needs some coaching to be able to improve on, say, her engagement. I'm going to approach her maybe differently than my friend Paul, who's on here, who receives coaching a little bit differently and can be better supported to drive the same outcomes, but in a different way. So let's look at what is good AI and automation. And good AI and automation is about looking at our primary goals. What are we supposed to accomplish with our quality programs to achieve better outcomes? And now how do we strategically pull in AI to drive those outcomes? It's the programmatic use of the capabilities, blending them in seamlessly with the workflow that you have. So things like looking at it as it performs a very specific quantifiable task. It's training on your specific data in your environment. And Paul's going to show you a little bit about the AI that we have when we look at things like large language models and being able to ask questions. It doesn't make sense if I'm asking questions from another organization and what's going on there to be able to improve my quality. I need my AI to be able to look at what's going on within my organization and continue to evolve quickly with it. Tailored to look at where help is needed, that automation. So again, can we make sure that we're using the AI in a way that it's making our jobs easier? It's tough to be a QA analyst. There's a lot of manual labor that gets involved in building a form. But today, how do we use AI to make it faster to get a form up and running, faster to get evaluations performed? Adding to that employee experience. So being able to enhance capabilities without being disruptive. So back to about being able to give somebody their information, how well am I performing in real time? And can AI help to automatically evaluate a performance of an employee and then give them that feedback in almost near real time? Those are the types of things that we're looking at. AI should target to address those specific needs and allow you to be able to measure those outcomes and see the results of those. It has to be additive to employee experience and enhance capabilities without being disruptive. So what are three ways, AI and quality programs come to life, right? And so first is building a quality form. Accelerating building quality forms is probably one of the top things, right? How quickly can we build it? How quickly can we refine it? How quickly can we evolve it? Being able to bring AI in here to lift the load for you is crucial. If there's times when you're building a quality form, and many of the folks that I speak with, they'll tell me it'll take weeks or months to build something and prove it out, or to go back and refine that information. We're using AI to be able to very simply ask the questions, what kind of things do I need to have in my form, and let it do some of the building for you. That greatly condenses the time to get that out there. Being able to score things automatically. Being able to have the AI do the evaluation, listen, and then do that. That saves the time from having somebody to sit there and listen to it and listen to it and listen to it. So rather than, say, Paul having to wait 6 weeks before he gets feedback on a call that he did, and not even remember the event or the call that happened, it's now he knows in real time what's going on. So he's empowered. It empowers you to be able to own your destiny. But then there's that hybrid evaluation, right? Majority of the people that I speak with, what they prefer is we want to have the automation, we want the scalability, and we want to be able to tap into all of that unknown, but we also want to have the ability to leverage a solution that lets us know that we can still have that manual evaluation aspect of it. So by having that, you're able to still go and let automated quality go ahead and determine or triage, hey, these are all the calls that went really great, but these are the ones that did not comply, and you may want to focus your time and attention here on these ones. So it almost does that triage for you and eliminates quite a bit of the guessing game. But I think that's enough for me talking to you about it. I have Paul talk about the Verint approach for automating quality and bring AI into this into organizations, and talk about the Verint Quality Bot in action.
Thanks, Nicole. Just give me a moment here to set this up. All right, just wanted to confirm that I am in fact sharing my screen. The last webinar I did, I was a good 40 seconds in and I forgot to click the share button. Hey everyone, I'm very excited to be able to show you the quality bots in action. For those of you, I did recognize a few names on the sign-up list, but for those that haven't met me, I am a former Verint customer, a pre-bot customer, so I'm very envious of customers today that have I'll say the luxury of using AI to make their jobs easier. So in today's demo, I'll just do a high level. I'll show you 4 kind of key things. One is showing actually how the automated quality works, because I think that's the foundation of automation. Then I'll show you how AI actually helps reduce the effort to build forms. Like, I've probably built hundreds, maybe even thousands of AQM questions in my lifetime. It's not hard to do, but it can be time consuming. And nobody wants to spend time building stuff. You want to do the cool stuff. You want to do the coaching. You want to interact with your teams. You want to do the analytics and stuff. So AI and our latest version is like super cool. Then I'll show you how scorecards that leverages the automated questions as KPIs that can easily highlight who your top performers are, who needs a little bit of help, and then those scorecards could also use automated actions like notifications when KPIs fall below goal, assigning coaching, assigning e-learning and stuff. So back in my day, I managed all this stuff through spreadsheets. It was just a nightmare. So imagine the free time if you're using spreadsheets today. Don't take offense, but there's a better way to do things. And last but not least, I'll show you the data insights bot, which leverages all of the quality information, all the KPI data, as well as some information from all these other solutions that you may be using to highlight insights. There's a total quality dashboard that'll show you that's out of the box, and there's some really cool things there that is also powered by AI. So now, so the system that I'm in now is interactions. That's the quality. So those of you that are using quality today probably familiar with the screen, the unified player. So this is right. Those of you that have speech will probably see these word bubbles, which is super cool when it comes to finding moments of truth within the call. You just click on the bubbles. Those of you that have application visualizer, you may know this as DPA. You can also see the applications that are being used at different points of the call. But today's focus is going to be on quality and the quality bots and how that works. So I'll just close this for a little bit more real estate. When it comes to creating a form, and I'll show you that in a minute, very similar to what you might be doing today from a manual perspective, right? Same form components. The main difference is you're able to define what the answer looks like. And I'll just close that for a little bit more real estate. And so the foundation of the automated quality starts with the transcript. Those of you that have speech, this probably looks familiar, but with our latest version, we call it the exact transcription bot, the best in the industry when it comes to contact center calls. This is really, I'll say, a game changer when it comes to the automated quality, because this is the factory model that you're seeing here. I'd probably say game changer too much, but it has self-tuning capabilities. So imagine keeping pace with your business, especially if you have a lot of new product services, company jargon, etc. Like all of that stuff, you don't necessarily need to maintain your language model if you're incorporating that into your AQM rules. So there's an effort of calibration and maintenance after your form is built that largely goes away, because of the self-tuning capability. So that's something that I wish I had. Again, these things, these tuning efforts, not necessarily hard, but they can be time consuming, and nobody wants to spend the time doing these things. But how it works is, so the quality bots leverage the transcript. So the transcript here. So those of you that haven't moved to the cloud yet probably see just visually a significant difference in terms of how the transcription looks. It's more complete, it's more accurate, reads like a book. So imagine that this level of accuracy when it comes to your AQM questions. So you can get into things like full disclosures and disclaimers and things like that, where in the past maybe a little bit difficult. So things that are verbatim, that's where the accuracy comes in handy. But essentially what it does is within your quality form, you have an automated answer section, and basically, in this case, it's using the standard greeting. What does the greeting sound like? You put that in. A little bit more of a scripted, so there's always an option for that. But when it comes to something like calmed with confidence, this is the personal favorite of mine, where not every call is going to have some sort of frustration, negative sentiment. So you want to put in some eligibility rules or applicability rules, right? So the bots are smart enough to detect that there is some sort of, in this case, just the line above, and getting really frustrated and upset. In that case, it triggers the bot to say, okay, I need to score this question. And then it looks for, de-escalation techniques, empathy, and things like that. And, at a presentation I did last year, I used ChatGPT and say, how many different ways can an agent demonstrate empathy? And it came back with hundreds. So imagine having to do that work on your own, right? Listening to calls, brainstorming, using like online sources, or is it Sori? But so it's really kind of so the bot that I'm about to show you, the quality template bot, takes all of that, I'll say guesswork for lack of a better word, but all of that effort, right? There's hundreds of ways of saying the same thing, and you don't want your agents to sound like robots and too scripted. So that's a way to do it. So lots of other examples here that could be automated. I think this form has about 25, 30 questions. You can bring in some hold stuff, and you can also automate some auto-fail criteria. I know that's a popular subject for quality. So, in this case, if the agent didn't properly validate the customer, if they were rude, things like that, these zero tolerance behaviors, right? You can automate those as well. So, very cool. The transcript, right? It's 100% of your calls. So this, right, as Nicole mentioned, know the unknowns. When you have 100% visibility into your calls, you're really eliminating a lot of the blind spots, whether it comes to kind of standard quality questions like did they use the greeting, the closing, things like that. But it becomes critical to have that visibility when you're looking at disclosures and basically anything that could get you in trouble. Sometimes they lead to regulatory fines. Sometimes it's repeat calls, credits, but there's always a cost to not disclosing something, especially in healthcare and all that kind of stuff. So we can do that very easily with a high level of accuracy, because the foundation of automated quality is this high quality transcript that you see here. So. All right, I could talk about this all day, but let me, for the sake of time, I'll shift over to the form designer. So creating an automated form, very similar to what you would do today. Actually, one last thing here. So on that last slide, Nicole talked about the hybrid. So this was a fully automated form, but you don't have to go, full 100% automation out of the gate. You can also do what we call a partially automated. And partially automated is sort of the best of both worlds, where you have some questions that, there's really kind of no need for human, right? Like, so here we have the standard greeting. You said the greeting or you didn't, right? It's pretty scripted, so pretty easy to do. Efficiently navigated all systems. That's a little bit tougher to automate, not impossible. if you have DPA or application triggers, there are some ways that you could use the application systems and things like that. But if you're interested in that, happy to come back and have a full-blown conversation on that. And when you have a partially automated form, we often see customers use this method when they're launching new automated questions as a test. So they can put it side by side, say how does this compare with, how does a bot compare to humans? And we often find that the bot does a better job because it's objective, it's consistent, right? There's no subjectivity, there's no preferences and things like that. So anything in green is automated. So from a capacity, just freeing up effort. So if you can do sort of a little half and half, you're still saving a whole bunch of time. You still have to do some manual, but the time it takes to do each evaluation decreases significantly. And of course, you also have the option of doing things manually. So you really have three modes, I would say, from a quality perspective. From a form, so this is, I wanted to show you sort of the latest and greatest when it comes to how AI, specifically in this case, it's generative AI that is helping build the forms. As I mentioned, it's not hard to do. It's just how do you capture the hundreds, thousands of different ways agents are saying the same thing. So I've been kind of playing around with this. So there's, here's a bunch of examples where I've used the AI to ask the question, right? It's called ask a question. And that's as simple as it is. You put in the question, did the agent demonstrate appropriate empathy? That's it. And when you do that, it transfers over. So you have this manage automated answer rules here, right? That's new for AQM or the quality bots. Another thing that's really cool when it comes to managing your KPIs. So each one of these questions that you see here, you have the option of turning that into a KPI. So you can have a ton of visibility, granular visibility into the different performance at a question level. You may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of things to present to the agent, but you can hide them, right? So there's permissions. You don't have to show all of these things to your agents, but for your supervisors, managers, you can have a lot more visibility at a more granular level. And again, happy to come back and speak to as many of you as possible because there's a ton of things that you can do for all your different outcomes, whether it's saving money, making money, reducing risk. There's a lot to do here. So, all right. So with the ask a question, it's using the generative AI. All I have to do as somebody that's creating a form is ask the question. Did the agent demonstrate empathy? So it'll go through all the different transcripts and it'll highlight the basically where an agent is demonstrating empathy. This example here, right? There's sort of three examples. Hey, I don't understand why I just paid you. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Why can't you just charge me once a month like every other company? Oh, I understand your frustration, right? So, and that's pay it once. That's not fair. I completely understand. In the olden days, I would have to put in all of the different ways empathy sounds like. There's sort of an in-between. It's called by examples. That's what we have where you could put in examples, but there's still manual input that's required to understand, teach the AI like what it sounds like, right? So, and as Nicole mentioned, it could take hours, days, weeks, right? Just building the form, and then you have to validate. Now, you can pretty much skip the whole building of the form. And I mentioned that with confidence question where you have sort of the applicability rules. Again, like what is worthy of empathy? What is worthy of, right, something? So you can put in an applicability rule. And again, you don't have to define it. You just ask the question, did the caller express a negative or emotional sentiment that warrants an empathetic response? So not sure just what happened there, but it would bring back another list of results similar to what you just saw here. Probably just timed out here. So you have your list of calls that warrant and sort of empathy, and then you've got the calls that actually have empathy. So that's as simple as it can be. And I think, based on what I had to do back in the day, like this is like super exciting. And you can get to the meat of what evaluations and quality is about. It's about coaching, improving the performance and all these things like that. So, all right. So let me go back, and I'll just switch over here to scorecards very, very quickly. And most of you are probably familiar with scorecards, but this is all the KPIs, right? So these are slightly different forms, but all the questions that are associated with these different forms, we can do voice, we can do chat, right? So you've got that omni-channel. So no matter where your interactions with your customers are coming in from, we can do 100% automation, which is really cool. So looking at this particular screen here, I'm looking at Adam, and I can tell, right, when you're looking at improvement opportunities, it does highlight the negative. So in this case, promoted self-service, Adam's not doing so well. So that's the biggest opportunity. His total score is not that great either. So, so that's one way to look at it, right? So you don't really have to scour reports. You don't have to do any calculations. It does it all for you. The other thing to note is the trends, where you can look at things, and in this case, occupancy is one of the WFM KPIs. It's actually at goal, but it's trending down. So you might want to monitor that as well. And the beauty of all these KPIs from an automation perspective is one, gives you a lot of information in terms of trends and things like that. But where, from my experience, where the big time saver is you can configure all of these KPIs, send notifications to the agent, to the supervisor, let them know that something's fallen below goal. So imagine like being proactively notified, hey, you just went right, and you can set thresholds, right? So it eliminates these one-offs and things like that. So you can get ahead of the game. You don't have to wait till you're one-on-one. Sometimes it's monthly. Sometimes sometimes it doesn't happen. You could get assigned coaching, right? So you can, right, depending on the thresholds, you can get face-to-face coaching. You can get learnings. With real-time coaching, which is a different solution, but when the KPI falls below goal, you could also assign real-time coaching. So as the call is happening, you can get a little nudge. So if you're not doing well with asking additional assistance in this case, you might get a reminder at the end, close to the end of the call, say, hey, did you ask the customer, if they need assistance or things like that? So, or the empathy, situation, you might get some coaching on that automatically as the call is happening. So think about the immediate impact to performance when you're getting, these helpful nudges during the call as opposed to after the call. So lots of information here as well. All of this information goes into our engagement data hub, which our data insights leverages to provide more insights. So here you're looking more at maybe a team level, maybe at an enterprise level, depending on your role. Looking at a team level here. So we have this heat map view. So you can look from just visually, green is good, red is bad. Looking left to right at a KPI level, you can see at a KPI level the performance across all of these agents. And you could also look from top to bottom if a particular agent might need more help just by looking at the color. So super easy to understand who needs the help and all that stuff. So all right. So again, there's each of these sections that I've shown you probably worthy of an hour demo each. So I'm just skimming the surface here in terms of what the system can do. But at the end of the day, all this automation and sort of the visibility because of that 100% transcription, helps with those blind spots, especially when it comes to compliance. Nobody wants to get fined. Reputational damage. It's hard to put a dollar figure on that. So if you were to start automation of quality, you kind of pick some of the things that have the biggest impact. That reduce your spends, reducing your risk, making money, those types of things. So just do a quick time check here. All right, I think I will just end off with the total quality dashboard. So again, this is something that's new. For those of you that have been leveraging the SSRS reports within the Verint application, nothing wrong with Excel, but we have this modern look and feel here, where from a total quality, it brings in all the KPI data, as well as it leverages other data, your evaluation data. It gives you some visibility into different areas of improvement. Gives us some statistics on, in this case, we've got 17 employees, total average score. This is demo data, you can do things by average score by location, right? So we've got some home, work from anywhere, work from home versus the office. This could easily be different locations. If you've got call centers across, where you might be. Also from a channel perspective, sort of a side by side, and sort of the type of evaluation. So when you get into a more 360-degree view of quality, right? So you're looking at the automated stuff, and again, this is just not that the automation creates worse scores. It's just the data that we have doesn't necessarily line up to the automated forms. But you have your sort of internal view here, and when you bring in just the interaction qualities, when you bring in the customer perspective, you get that 360-degree view, and sometimes the scores don't align. And in this case, like we're looking at 66 versus 57. So customers are thinking that from an evaluation perspective, the performance is better than maybe internally. So, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We've got some evaluations by folder. So here, folders, these are the flags. Some of you are probably familiar with the flags here. If you have a dispute or challenge or rebuttal process, you can track that by employee, etc. So lots of visibility here. This is out of the box, so you don't necessarily need to do any work here. If you have the enterprise license, you can create your own dashboards, and just the visual appeal and all of that stuff. And I'll take a minute here where within this data insights bots, we have these things called headlines. So this is where the AI is scouring all the data that resides at the engagement data hub and points out, I think it's 5 or 6 different insights types, where you've got trends, you've got trending patterns, analogies, anomalies, etc. And so this is the stuff where the bot's picking it up that you may or may not be aware of. So imagine just, it's almost like somebody giving you an elbow, a little bit of a nudge to say, hey, you might want to look into this. And the last but not least is, with this data insights bot, you can ask it questions. And so if I was to put, I just sort of did this one earlier today. I want to know what the average evaluation score is by day of the week. Is there a pattern? So notice I didn't have to do any queries. I don't have to be a data scientist to be able to surface insights. So what's interesting is kind of like Sunday, that's the best day of the week from a score perspective. Maybe easy calls, I don't know, maybe, right? So we can see a definitive pattern that in the middle of the week, evaluation scores are the lowest. I don't know, is it like Wednesday? It's like, I don't know, hump day and people are tired. Weekend, right? So these I think are so it's, and maybe the agents are tired, etc. So the gist of it is that you can ask plain language questions and get results. You don't have to be a data scientist. I thing against, but that's an expensive skill set and hard to find. So now this, for the average folk like myself, right, we can get insights without having to know any specific programming languages, etc. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Nicole.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for walking us through that. I'm really excited to see, I started off in the contact center. I was 19 years old. It was early 1990 something. And for me, I thought I was gaming the system when I could sit like close enough to the door so I could run outside and have a cigarette and then run back in. And like just the way the contact center has changed from then to where it is today. We don't need to be using Excel, but now I don't even have to go in and painstakingly build my AQM form. And I don't have to sit there and painstakingly evaluate all the data. Technology's come to this place where I just have to ask it, and it's doing it for me, which is just blows my mind. So it's not just, and it's not just theory. I mean, it's reality. And we have customers that are leveraging automation and AI now. And the areas that we're seeing this happen are areas like, when we're looking at saving time and money. So there's not just the amount of time to build the forms and create them, but the amount of time it takes to, do an evaluation, being able to let the system to handle those things, so you can focus on either having on the meat and potatoes of the call, what are some of the things I really need to listen to versus some of the soft skills, or just letting it take it all from you. You're saving time and money when it comes to how people are utilizing, their efforts. The other thing that we see often is improving quality, so avoiding bias in evaluations. And letting the coaches, letting avoiding the bias in evaluations. So when we're able to get automated evaluations that automate across all of the calls that I'm having. So for me, if I know if my supervisor is giving me a score that's only based on maybe 2 or 3 calls that I did out of 100 in a week, I don't feel like it's a fair representation. But for being able to evaluate up to almost all of the calls that are going on, we're able to avoid the bias in evaluations and get, a true picture of not just how well we're doing as a company, but also how, I feel like an agent, you're getting a fair view of me. And then finally, looking at reducing compliance risk, because you actually have that coverage, that full coverage, because of automated compliance, you're going to reduce the risk of being non-compliant. And that's critical, because if you can improve compliance in especially risk-heavy areas, especially when it comes to insurance law, that's one of those things that's very important. So to be able to say, hey, we evaluated everything and look, we complied, and you can give them that proof, automation is worth its weight in gold. And so for our customers that are using automation in their organizations today, what they're finding is with the Verint Quality Bots, it's increasing their supervisor capacity. So if we had to distill it down to how effective and how much value organizations realizing, we have one organization, is a healthcare brand. They automated 100% of their evaluations. They were like, if we can automate everything that we can, that's brilliant, because that's going to let us take our supervisor capacity and have those supervisors focus on more meaningful information or more meaningful tasks, right? And so the value of increasing their supervisor capacity to focus on meaningful things saved them $1.5 million annually, right? Because they didn't need to bother allocating the resources towards that work. Another customer does auto and life insurance, and they also automated up to 100% of their evaluations. And for them, that made a difference by 30%. 30% of time is about $1 million. And then finally, in telecommunications company, they evaluated additional $1.8 million volume in interactions without having to add resources. And I really want to just highlight this right here, right? Because we sometimes think about automation and automation being something that are going to when we look at automation, we think, oh, we're doing it to get rid of all the people, and that's not necessarily the case. We're doing it to free people up to either do more meaningful things, or say in this last case, they were able to evaluate so many more, do so many more evaluations they never would have been able to do. They were able to do more with what they have, and that has a weight of $4 million to it. Being able to do more and turn people into superheroes is a huge benefit. And for your agents, they will also love the quality bot. So I mentioned earlier, I would hate to have my work, my meeting, evaluated based off of snapshots of how I am through the day, 1 or 2 conversations. That would absolutely, and I know it frustrated me because I would pride myself on bringing the best that I could every single day. And I love talking to people, love talking to them so much. I have the longest call handle times, and that was the one thing I would get nailed on. But always wanting to go ahead and make sure that I did the very best I could. If I had that one bad call and that's all I was being judged on, that felt horrible. But to know that, as so agents, I know I would love it, and I know that agents' feedback has specifically been, there's no more bias because you're really looking at what I bring to the table as a whole person. And because I know where I stand, my dialogue is no longer about my supervisor telling me, here's where you need to improve. Those scorecards that Paul showed, they're real time. And so I know where I stand all the time. And the conversation with my supervisors now, hey, Paul, I'm really struggling here. I can see I'm struggling. What could I do differently? Or as Paul mentioned, organizations leverage other forms of using AI, using it smart, is things like real-time coaching or in-the-moment contextual knowledge. And what are we doing to set the employee up so that they're not making a quality error? And so all of these things is really changing the way that agents are able to bring their best selves to the table every day, and they no longer dread that evaluation process. They now trust it and they can appreciate it. So getting started, right? You've been on here, and I've seen a few questions coming in from the chat. So we'll look at those in a few moments. When you want to get started with a quality bots, of course, it's like super easy, right? And so if you are in our Verint cloud, it's very easy to it's very easy to extend. It's just an extension of what you use today for quality. One of the things that it does, it's not like you have to start from scratch. So you can start learning from what you already have. You already can connect to your existing performance scorecards. It is not quality bots or automated quality management and all the new capabilities. Those are all things within our quality management applications, quality management today. So it's not something brand new. You don't have to rip anything out. You don't have to replace anything. You don't have to do any of that. You're adding in the capability to what you've already had and what you've already built on. What's also very exciting is that Verint also came out with one of the most accurate transcription solution in the marketplace. It's called the Verint Exact Transcription Bot, and that works beautifully, and it works hand in hand with the Verint Quality Bots. So we are able to make sure that when we are doing an automated evaluation, it's being done based upon accurate information, and that's key too. So if you have a CSM, if you are somebody who is in the cloud, your CSM can help with this. We have very specific services we can use to help you get up and running quickly. And if you are in the cloud and you're not using a quality bot today, but you want to think about it, the engagement data insights, that's something that Paul showed. That's something that you can get access to today as a cloud customer. So your customer success manager can also help you to get some access with that as well. Such a privilege to have been able to spend time with all of you this afternoon. It's always a pleasure to be able to see Paul show it in action. As he said several times, he's not somebody who's just working in a tech company showing you the latest tech. Isn't it great? Paul's somebody who actually was out in the field, living, eating, and breathing this stuff on a daily basis. So, I would trust Paul, with anything when it comes to my quality program and what should I do with it. So with that, let's go on to Q&A. And we have some time for some Q&A, so we're going to take a look at some of the questions that we have in here. So let's see, we have, so I have a question here that said, you know, if you want to start using the Verint Quality Bot, how much training would my team need? So we would, once everything becomes implemented in, you know, there'd be some training that that our services team would be able to bring you up with. It really is not a difficult learning curve at all. So it's a very, very short amount of training. And we also have some training that is on the job type of stuff where we have some services that will also walk you through and help you build your initial forms, whether it's fully automated or completely automated. And then we also have e-learning that supports it as well. Another question is here that we have here, which is, do I need to automate my entire QM process, or can I automate a specific workflow only as a starting point? So yes, I mean, so we have the hybrid capability, right, where you can automate certain parts of, you know, the form, and then you can still manually do other parts of the form. So again, you get that blend, that best of the both worlds, or as many of the folks I speak to is, you know, let me do the meat and potatoes that I like to do still. When introducing automation, do I need to expect any major disruptions in my ongoing service? And you know, and the answer to that is technology is not disrupting. It's the people change management aspect of it, right? With anything automatically coming in and making an assessment, there's a bit of that change that we need to go through to help people kind of build trust in is the technology as good as a person? And what most organizations do is they actually will let the automation go ahead and evaluate those and do the evaluations, and then they'll go in and have the person do those evaluations. And then what they find is that allows them to say, you know, I heard it, I saw it, I can see that there's the accuracy. If it's inaccurate, you know, is it a tuning thing that we have to do? Is there something else that relates to it? But most of the time, those are the two things to think about when it comes to rolling this out smoothly. And I have time for a couple more questions here that I'm going to take a look at. And for those that we can't get to, we will respond back via email. So let's see. So how does the bot handle calls where a translation service is used, and how does it transcribe foreign languages? So yes, it depends upon, so one of the things we do is we do have the ability to handle now in our latest version foreign languages. It's one of those things that we will sit down and evaluate with you on what is it that you need in terms of transcribing the foreign language. So that is one of those things that we would sit down and look with you at, and we can reach out on that one. And I think that for now, that is what we have for questions. So if we didn't have a chance to answer your question, we've noted your name and your email, and we will work through your account manager, or our account teams will reach out with the responses to those. So
thank you very much, Nicole, and thank you very much, Paul, for the amazing presentation. And I'd really like to thank you very much for our audience for your time and attention today. And we hope that you found this online event worthwhile. The on-demand version of this webinar will be sent to you tomorrow via email, so check out your inbox. And if you'd like to meet our experts in person, please attend our customer conference, Verint Engage, this September. To learn more about this event, visit verint.com. And with that, have a nice day.